Welcome to Good Morning Nueva York. I'm your host, King Downing. We'll be here till 7 a.m. Giovanni Anglin is engineering. He's filling in for today in studio. In the background, you probably hear this mellow tone in my voice because that's what this music does to me. I should play something like this every morning to get me off to a smooth start. So this is November, and this is by our guest today. She premiered the song last December when she came on for the first time, and we're so happy to have her back, a smooth, soulful singer, songwriter. She's coming back with these lush melodies, and she joins us to talk about music in challenging times. And of course, we're going to listen to her tracks, including the premiere of her new single, which we're going to be giving away copies of. So don't go anywhere. We're talking about none other than Hunter Blair Ambrose, who is back again, and I'm so happy to have you. Welcome back to Good Morning Nueva York.
Good morning, King. How are you? Good morning, New York City.
Yeah, good morning. So I always want to start out, are you a morning person or a overnight person? I always like to ask artists that.
Gosh, I mean, I'm definitely not an overnight person. I don't think I'm as much of a night owl as I used to be. I think as I've gotten a little bit older, I wake up definitely a lot earlier, but I am more creative at nighttime. I don't know what it is, but when it comes to songwriting sessions and recording music, I definitely find myself more in the zone in the evening time. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be speaking to you this morning. So thank you for having me.
So where are you from?
So I was born in New York City, and my family actually moved around quite a bit. But I was born in the city on the Upper East Side, and then we moved around quite a bit. I moved to Indianapolis, Indiana, in 2008, and I went to high school there. Then I went to college at Berklee College of Music, and so I ended up in Boston for a bit. That's where I'm actually calling you from. But I'm actually moving back to New York in about a month's time, so I'm very excited about that.
So what was your path from singing, songwriting, playing music to Berklee School of Music? It's got a good reputation for turning out great artists.
Yeah, for sure. So I started out just kind of performing in school and doing the school choir, regional choir, musical route. And by the time I was about 7 or 8, my parents figured out that I had considerable vocal talent, and I played piano since the time I was 5. And so they decided to get me in some proper, formal vocal training. And at that point, I continued singing all through high school. And by the time I got to be about 17, I had gotten a manager. I started to do some gigs around town. I started working with Narada Michael Walden, who was a producer for huge artists like Whitney Houston, George Michael, and all those people. And I was working in studio as a session vocalist. And at that point, I had decided that I had wanted to apply to Berklee, and I was kind of caught in between, do I just really go for my career and not go to college, or do I go to college and just focus on my education? I had opted to go to Berklee. I stayed there for a couple years, and I ultimately did decide to leave just to pursue my career full time in 2017. And since then, it's just been a roller coaster ride of writing music, traveling the country, doing my thing, and finally, we come to getting my debut album out that we've been working on for the last 3.5 years.
So when you talk about somebody, a giant like Michael Narada Walden, there are a lot of people who may not even remember or even know the role that he played. I mean, some of the names, the Temptations, Aretha Franklin, some vocalists that I respected people may not know as well, Angela Bofield, Lisa Fisher, Sister Sledge, Herbie Hancock, as you said, Whitney Houston, just on and on, Mariah Carey. So tell me something about what it was that he had you doing as a session person, and if he shared anything with you that you've taken forward now.
Absolutely. So at first, I had approached him with my manager to actually cut what would have been my first record when I was about, I think we started when I was 17. I was going to put out when I was 18 years old. And I was doing a completely different kind of music, and I think we cut 3 different songs together that I had co-written with him. And from that experience, he had noticed that I had a lot of potential as a songwriter. And so not only was I in there recording vocals and, just some backing vocals for some tracks that he was working on for his material, he actually had me come on to contribute some songwriting credits to a couple of the tracks that ended up on one of his records. And that was a huge experience for me, because I think those were quite literally my first professional credits as a songwriter. So that experience was huge for me. And to be doing it, in the room with a legend who's a Grammy Award winner, who had worked with, some of the biggest names in the industry, that was huge for me. And you can imagine, as somebody that was coming out of New York and then had moved to the Midwest and was just trying to find her way as an artist, that was such a incredible moment in my life. I'll never forget that. And I think, even as a vocalist, he had me doing things and stretching my voice in a way that I hadn't done before. And it was intimidating at first, because I don't think I'd been in a studio that large with that many people and that many reputable industry people in the room. But I don't think I would have gotten the place that I'm at today as a vocalist, as a songwriter, without that. It was great.
And was there anything that you learned, so you're sort of talking about the vocal pointers that he might have shared, is there anything specific you learned about songwriting that people who may not be technically down as songwriters might learn? Is there something about formula structures, anything that he shared with you? Tell me a story.
I think it came maybe not so much from a vantage point of a structure of a pop song or an R&B song, because those are the 2 genres that I do the most, but it just came from more of a philosophical angle. And I think that we had sat down. I was really young at the time, and I hadn't had, a ton of life experience, but he told me, the key to writing songs that really resonate with people and stay around is that you want to pull from your own personal experiences, but you want to do it in a way that feels more kind of all-encompassing for people, and you want to write in a way that's specific and true to your own life, but, you know, make it approachable in a way that it's like, you know, masses of people can listen to it and be like, you know what, I've been through that. I feel the emotions through the song, you know, apply it to something in their lives that they've experienced themselves. So it's like a very fine line between being authentic and broad, if that makes sense, to really craft, you know, a truly great song, just from, you know, a writing perspective.
Makes sense to me. You're listening to WBAI 99.5 FM in New York City, streaming live and available on demand at WBAI.org. So if you miss any one of these programs or any part of a program, or you want your friends to check it out, send them to WBAI.org and you can follow up. We're talking to Hunter Blair Ambrose, who is smooth, soulful singer-songwriter, and she's back with her lush melodies. You heard her first one, Skin Deep, to open up the whole show, and then November to open up her segment. And in a moment, we're going to be listening to her new single, and then we're going to be giving away a few copies of it. We're also going to be opening up the phone lines in about 5 minutes. So if you have any questions, you want to ask her anything, you want to talk about your own experience with music, you want to tell us about that first little song you wrote when you thought that you were on your way to a major career, anything you want to talk about, we'll be giving out the number in a minute. But you were talking about how Narada Michael Walden was talking about incorporating your own experiences into the song. So I want to go back to November, and is there anything in there that was a personal connection, and how did you, or what did you incorporate into the song that came from your own experience?
Well, that song has become sort of my penultimate record of my career so far. It came kind of unexpectedly. I think I had written bits and pieces of that song, like a verse here. I think the chorus came a little bit later. That song was inspired directly behind, the old relationship of mine that actually directly inspired my entire upcoming album. It's called November because I had met my ex on his birthday, which happened to be in November 10th. So when I sing the line, every year in mid-November, I'm the one you'll remember, it's directly referencing that. There's a lot of emotions that go into that song, and that, you know, it was just, that whole track was directly influenced by that experience, which had a profound impact on my life, obviously. And just all the emotions that went into me reflecting on why that relationship ended and what went wrong, and having regrets and wishing I could go back, but also being okay with moving forward because I can always, you know, remember the good aspects of that. I brought the song to my wonderful collaborator, producer, co-writer. His name is Jason Strong. He's also a Berklee College music alum. And we had decided to incorporate a sample of a Lady Gaga song called Alejandro, which serves as the chorus drop in my song. So that little melody that you hear in the chorus is actually from one of her songs. And, you know, thematically, her song Alejandro and the theme behind my song November were very similar, and they both fell in the same key. And I thought it would be really, thought it would be a nice send-up to one of my biggest influences to incorporate that. So we did it. And that actually was a big part of the reason that my name started to get out there, because word had gotten around in her fan base that I had a writing credit from Lady Gaga on an upcoming song of mine. And, truly it was because I had, to give her and her co-writer credit, to be able to use that sample of her track in my song. But just the groundswell and the name association kind of created some buzz around that track, and it ended up becoming really like my signature song of my catalog. So I have very, very, very fond memories doing that song, and obviously it's very emotionally poignant for me, and I think that it's probably my most popular track I've released so far, and we're both so proud of it. Jason and I co-wrote that song together, and yeah, love it. Love that song to this day.
All right, so we're getting ready to take a listen to your new single, and I'm going to say to folks, now's the time. You can call in 212-209-2877, 212-209-2877. If you have any questions for Hunter Blair Ambrose. So we're going to take a listen to Baby Goodbye. Is this part of the same story that you were just telling us about the as I'll just say, the November 10th person?
Yes, it is. It falls into the same kind of emotional vein as kind of what November's about, but I think this one's a little bit more, it's a lot more upbeat, and I think it takes a more, I don't know, there's a lot more attitude behind this song. Can't wait for you guys to hear it.
All right, let's take a listen. In the meantime, you can call in 212-209-2877 and stick around. We're going to let you know how you can get your own copies of Baby Goodbye. It's great. You hear how it's changed my voice. You put me back into that lush mood. That's Baby Goodbye by Hunter Blair Ambrose, singer, songwriter, and piano player. So we want to make sure we get our calls in. So we've got a caller on the line. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your question or comment?
Hey, good morning. This is JJ calling from Brooklyn, and this is great. It's such a nice to hear these songs, and these are definitely pop hits, Hunter, for sure. I think you got something going on there. Hey, I was just going to see if you've ever had any experience doing songwriter groups, And like, it doesn't matter how much success you've had or how much not success you've had. There's these groups that are around. There's a bunch of them in New York and probably different cities too, where like 10, 15 songwriters get together, be it in person, or of course now it's on, because of the, I don't want to say the pandemic, because it's more like a lockdown, if you ask me, because the pandemic means people are actually, anyway. But songwriters really, they really can really criticize your stuff. They really cut in deep, right? But it's actually for the better. And you really, they say, well, this lyric takes me out, and this melody doesn't do anything for me. And it's like, it's a little harsh, right? And you might go home with your tail between your legs and all that stuff, but it makes you a better songwriter. And so part B is, one good thing that's come out of the lockdown is I've been collaborating with a neighbor of mine who lives in my building who I probably wouldn't have otherwise. He's also a Berklee graduate as well, too, and he's like the best badass bass player I've ever jammed with, and so it's really exciting to have had that collaboration happen. But maybe I'd like to hear your thoughts on songwriters groups, because I think they've made me a better songwriter, because they don't hold back, and they don't care how much success you've had or how much not success, and they really tell it like it is. And have you gone to any of those groups? And thanks a lot. I'll listen on the air. Why not? Right? Everyone takes their answer off the air. I'm going to take my answer on the air. How's that?
So JJ, thanks for that. And I'm going to give out my email address. I'll give it out now, and I'm going to give it out a little bit later. King@WBAI.org. Send me what you've got, and I'll let you know what I think of it too. So so that's King@WBAI. Okay. So Hunter, what do you think of JJ's comments?
So I have participated in those songwriting groups that you've mentioned. I think that they're a bit more popular out in Los Angeles. I think that runs a little bit more prevalent in that scene. But like you said, yeah, I mean, it definitely levels the playing field once you're in a room with all of those people. Like you said, like nobody cares about the level of, clout or success that you've had. They've been very, very instrumental into shaping me as a songwriter, and I've had great experiences, and some of my best work has come out of collaboration like that. So it's been great. I forget the second part to your question, though. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We have another caller I want to make sure we get in, so we'll get this one in just under the wire. Thanks, JJ, and please send me and anyone else who's got something to listen to, whatever it is, or some art to look at, king@WBAI.org. Let's go to our next caller. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your question or comment?
Hey, how's it going? My name's James. I was calling to say I really enjoyed the track. Definitely hear the flavor of Madonna in there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Really
So,
nice. And then the question was, do you have songs that you wrote about your experience with the pandemic? Anything that you have coming out or stuff that's available to listen to?
Yeah, I wrote actually the majority of my upcoming album in the middle of like the thick of lockdown, probably in April through June. A lot of that material got written. There is a song that's going to be on the album. The album's called Scorpio Season. It's coming this fall. But the name of the song that the pandemic really directly inspired, it's called Alone Together. And that title just came out of that, that experience that we've all shared from this pandemic of, this general feeling of isolation and loneliness, but we're all going through it at the same time. And then I, wove my relationship problems into that narrative too. So yeah, that song was definitely directly inspired by the pandemic. And
thanks.
I was just
Thanks, James. Thanks, James and JJ. So we had these two J's. I wonder if JJ has James or something else in the name. So pandemic-inspired music, Scorpio Season is the album. So when James asked you the question, I just assumed that Skin Deep was about the pandemic.
No.
Bad joke.
No.
Bad joke. No, it's definitely not. I know that. So Hunter Blair Ambrose, thanks for joining us again. Thanks for letting us listen to Baby Goodbye. Folks who are interested in a copy of it, we have a limited number of them. Email me at king@WBAI.org, king@WBAI.org, and get your copy of Baby Goodbye. Thanks for being back on. We will be talking to you, especially because I know you're going to let us know when Scorpio Season gets ready to drop, and we'll have you back. Have a great day.
Thank you, King. Thanks for having me.
And we're going to be going on to the second half of the program. We're going to be talking about Haiti, but first we're going to have some messages, so stay with us.
Mine.